You're listening to the Patriot Nation podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation podcast. As always, every single one of these episodes is brought to you by PrizePicks, which is the official daily fantasy sports app of CLNS Media. Go to download the app and put in CLNS, and you will give you 100% deposit match. So do that today. It's your boy Pat Lane here, as always, and today I am joined by a very special guest, one of my favorite people in the entire world, my guy, Keagan Stiefel. Keegan, thanks for coming through, man. We appreciate it, and it's good to see your smiling face as always.
Yeah, it's always fun. We're throwing it back to the old days. I feel like we do throwback episodes every now and again. So Throwback Thursday, I'm here.
It's
ready
nice
to talk some Patriots offseason or lack thereof.
Yep, I hear that.
Big moves,
Matt says, hi, Pat and Megan. And then...
Hi, Matt.
and then autocorrect got him. Old man Mob, what's up, buddy? How you doing? Matt St. Jean, go Friars, go Friars, go! He's at the Big East tournament this year, crushing it as always. And Thad says hello as well. So thank you for tuning in, people. We appreciate it. Hey, listen, I really think it's funny because this is one of those situations where we've talked about this, and of course, it's so funny because with this whole Dynasty show that I kind of liked. I mean, it's not winning an Emmy or anything like that, but I liked it. Everyone is now kind of jumping on. It's just so annoying to see the media, the mainstream media, who had just chastised and crapped all over Belichick for the last 24 years, to now do a full 180 and now say, well, what? How dare you talk about Belichick that way? Oh, and this wouldn't have happened without Belichick. And I thought Belichick couldn't draft anymore. They seem to be signing all of his draft picks. And I'm just like, what are we doing here, man? And so that is funny. I will say, before free agency started, I did say Robert Kraft is hid behind Bill Belichick for a long time and said that he wasn't the one spending money. Gerard Mayo said, we got some money to burn. And then said, well, maybe we won't burn as much money as we said we were going to. And now they come into free agency and they're just not spending money. It looks like it's not the Red Sox offseason, but it looks a lot like the Red Sox offseason this year, doesn't it?
As someone who has followed the Red Sox very closely in the past couple of years, I would not say it's anywhere close to a Red Sox offseason. I struggle with the whole – I made the joke at the top about how, lack thereof offseason. I struggle with shitting all over them completely because they've done exactly what I would have done.
Yeah.
But it's still disappointing not getting the big, Calvin Ridley would have been fun. It would have kind of filled a need that they have. They've got three major needs and it feels like they haven't filled any of them. And I think that's the biggest issue. It's not so much that they're not spending because they're spending money on the guys that they needed to retain. Uche, Anthony Jennings, Onwenu, Hunter Henry. If you lose those guys, then you have more holes to fill.
Right.
So they're holding course a little bit. They just haven't added. So it feels like they're kind of the same team they were sans quarterback situation. That's differently, but it's understandable what they're doing, but it's a little bit frustrating when you see the big $100 million cap room at the start of the offseason, and now you're down to about 45, and they haven't really added anybody. I think that's the frustrating part, more so than the moves that they have made, because I think a lot of them have been smart football moves.
Right. Well, that's kind of the weird position that we're in, right? Do you want to spend that money on Calvin Ridley, right? And that's, it reminds me of the Red Sox just because the reports were that they offered Calvin Ridley $22 million a year.
Right.
Those were the reports. Now, Calvin Ridley got $23 million from the Titans. You're telling me that, what happened? He just said, give me your best offer, and then Tennessee matched it? Tennessee went above and beyond. Maybe he wanted to play in Tennessee and not in New England. Don't you think Tennessee Patriots would have gone to 24 if they really were willing, you're willing to lose out because of $4 million. And I don't know. Maybe they offered 20 and the Titans offered 21 and they offered 22 and the Titans offered 23. I don't know the situation, right? But it just seems like if you really, it's a very Red Soxian look at it. Well, they were in on it, man. And, it didn't work out,
Yeah, I think with that too, like a lot of it might have been the way it's structured. The difficult part about this is you have no idea what's going on in Calvin Ridley's head.
That's correct.
A lot of money up front, and he's going to get a lot of money within the next 2 years. So maybe he thought, if I get all this money in the first 2 years and then they end up cutting me because they don't want to pay me, I go get to sign another contract. If I'm still producing, just not to the level of whatever 20 whatever million, I'll go sign another 3-4 year deal for, let's say 12 and make more money. And then I got all this money up front. So maybe the Patriots weren't willing to structure it that way. We know that with the deals that they have made, they've been all about value. We've also heard about how Elliott Wolf hasn't really budged. He is kind of sticking to his guns a little bit in terms of, here's what I'm willing to offer. Take it or leave it. This is the situation. I can respect that as a guy who's going out there for the first time, kind of running the ship on his own, making it clear that he's not going to just give in and start spending somebody else's money. But there are other moves that could have been made. I think just because you're not going to get a true number one wide receiver, which I don't think Calvin Ridley is in the first place.
Yeah.
Just because you're not getting that big, huge signing doesn't mean that you can't go out and get a Curtis Samuel signed today with Buffalo, so a division rival. That's a solid wide receiver who's better than anybody you got in the room right now. And there are 2 or 3 guys on the market like that right now. So you can still upgrade without making a sweeping change to the wide receiver room and completely resetting it. You know what I mean? This is a 2-3 year build anyway. They were never going to fix it all in one offseason. But at where they stand right now, they're in the same spot that they were entering. Just with less.
Yep. So can I just say thank you for being the voice of reason while I play devil's advocate? I'm in your boat. I feel the same way. I think what they've done is smart. You're not competing this year. You're not. Sorry, you're not doing it. And so why are we going to go out and spend an obscene amount of money on a guy like Calvin Ridley? It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. I don't know why the Titans did it, to be completely honest with you. I guess they think they have their quarterback in Will Levis, and they figure, let's get him the best wide receiver we possibly can. And that guy is Calvin Ridley. Sure. Okay, fine. But the Patriots look at it and say, we're not in that situation. We don't have the quarterback yet. Now, maybe we're going to draft the quarterback at number 3, and that then begs the question. If you were actually going to draft the quarterback at number 3, wouldn't you do everything you could to put all the pieces around him to be successful right away? Would you sign Jacoby Brissett to a 1-year, $8 million contract if you were going to draft a guy right away? And maybe they would and just say Jacoby's going to be our backup and that it is what it is, or he's going to play this year and the other guy or whatever, right? But it's very interesting to me to look at it and think, are they going to go quarterback at number 3? And I like the fact that they're taking a measured approach. I also like the fact that they're paying their own guys. Bring the guys back. You've done a nice job developing these guys. Anthony Jennings didn't show you anything until this past year, and he was awesome this year. So you bring him back. Josh Uche apparently turned down a lot of money to come back and play for you. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. You signed Mike Almena to a big contract. You brought back Kendrick Bourne. You're making these deals. You brought back Hunter Henry. You're making these deals to bring back the guys that are already on your team that you know are good. That's smart business. And now, can you build through the draft and maybe through trades as well, right? Devontae Parker, addition through subtraction. Mac Jones, addition through subtraction, right? Like, you do those things, and maybe the team looks a little bit better next year. And it's not going to be significant, but maybe it looks a little bit better and some of those young guys start playing better too.
Right. You touched on the quarterback thing kind of off the top there. I think it is very clear what they intend on doing at quarterback. Jacoby Brissett's going to be your starter next year. Yep. I don't think he'll be the starter for the entire season, but if he doesn't start the first 8 games, he's either injured or the dude you draft is a superstar and he's ready to go right away. Right. I think the plan is Jacoby is your starter. They're going to draft somebody at number 3, and they're going to sit his ass until they feel that he's fully ready to elevate the people around him or maybe just play to the level of don't screw anything up, help us win football games, which is what the Patriots couldn't do last year. Patriots, right. I've seen Taylor, somebody that we've worked with in the past, mention it 500 times this offseason. They were in every game they played in except for 2, and their quarterbacks actively lost them football games. If you just have a guy like Jacoby Brissett who's not going to do that, you're going to be a much better football team this year, even if you don't make huge splash additions. And I think they have made some smart signings where, Ezekiel Elliott was awesome when Ramondre Stevenson was down, but Antonio Gibson gives you a little bit more in the passing game. Maybe not quite the in between the tackles runner that Zeke still is, but it gives you a different dynamic. The tight end, I think you're better 1,000% with Austin Hooper than you are with Mike Gesicki. They've got a tackle back. Who knows about left tackle? That still needs to be addressed in the draft, but they've made slight upgrades. The defense they're essentially all coming back. I think just by upgrading the quarterback position, which they've already done, plus intending on going and picking somebody at number 3, letting them sit for a while, and eventually kind of releasing them, let's say, halfway through the year and letting them start. I think they're a better team now than when they started the offseason, and they still have the draft to go, and they still have some money to spend. I think they're in a solid spot. Yeah.
So here's the question I have for you, and this is really the biggest question in my eyes. Is it worth it to draft a quarterback at number 3 who's not ready to play yet, who you don't believe is good enough to walk in as your day 1 starter?
Yes. And I'll say it. I'll give an example that is a pipe dream, and no one's going to be this guy, but Patrick Mahomes was not ready to play. They didn't sit him because Alex Smith was some superstar. They sat him because he needed to, 1, learn their system, because he was coming from a foreign concept. Like the Texas Tech offense that he ran was a high school offense.
Right.
He needed to learn how to, kind of command an NFL offense. He said in the past he didn't know how to read a defense until he was like his 3rd year in the league. But this dude was talented. And I think with the 2 guys that are going to be available, one of the 2 guys that are going to be available, they're both talented as hell.
Yeah.
They just need to be developed into an NFL quarterback. And that's the thing. I think people kind of misconstrue, he needs to sit. It just means he's not capable. They're all capable. It's whether or not they're ready.
Yeah.
They've got all of the tools to be successful. It's just whether or not they're going to know how to use them.
Yeah.
I'm fully of the belief that the Patriots think Drake Maye is going to be the guy at number 3. With how Jaden Daniels' offseason is gone, he is skyrocketing, So I think the Patriots probably see Drake Maye as the guy that's going to be there at 3, and I think they're comfortable taking him, especially with Jacoby Brissett, where you can sit him. Drake Maye said it at the Combine. I'm okay sitting a year. I'm okay sitting, learning. I just want to be successful wherever I end up, and that's a great mindset to have as a rookie. And I if I had to place a wager right now, I'd say that's probably where they end up. They draft him at 3, and he sits for, if not the full season, the majority of it.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, listen, I wouldn't necessarily hate it, right? Like, bring me a superstar quarterback. That's how you win in this league, right? And it's funny, I had a conversation with Matt on the show about this, about, my buddy Chris had said something to me about, like, he thinks quarterback is an overrated position. Essentially saying that, like, if you look at the Super Bowl champions, and it's not fair to look at the Super Bowl champions, but if you look at the Super Bowl champions, yes, you have the quarterback. But outside of Brady and Mahomes, who's won? Right? Who's winning championships outside of Brady and Mahomes? Nick Foles, right? Like Eli Manning, Joe Flacco. Like those are guys that won championships. Patrick Mahomes won his championship this year because his defense was fantastic. If his defense hadn't played as well as they played, they don't win the championship. Now, that was true for Tom Brady in many years as well. And so it's true for all of these guys. But his argument basically was that you have to build a great team, which obviously is true. But like what he was saying essentially is that it's never worth it to take a quarterback number 1 overall. You should always trade out of number 1 because it's such a valuable pick, and you can get so many other picks so you can fix every other position. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. I think Caleb Williams is a generational talent. And so I would take him. Peyton Manning was a generational talent. They took him. It worked out pretty well. Andrew Luck was a generational talent. They took him. They couldn't build a team around him, and it fell apart, right?
Right.
But you have to then not suck at building a team, And so, yes, obviously the rest of the team needs to be good around them, but that guy and Matt, I thought Matt put it perfectly where it's like that great quarterback is almost like you're tall enough to ride the ride, right? It gets you on. You got to build the rest of the team around him, but that guy, you can't ride the ride in the playoffs without that guy,
Yeah, and I think the kind of the easy response to that is it's all a crapshoot.
Right.
You can think whatever you want to think, but whether it's going to happen, who knows? We see that like the Brady story has been told a million times. If anybody knew Patrick Mahomes was a 10th of as good as he is, he wouldn't have been the number 10 pick.
Right.
Josh Allen wouldn't have been the 7 pick or whatever he was.
Yeah.
Everybody, there are 3 quarterbacks that are going to go 1, 2, 3. 1 or 2 of them are probably going to stink. One of them will probably be great. That's just the way it works. And I don't know if it's so much the talent, like I was saying before. It's just the system they end up in. It's the players around them. It's the coaching. It's the situation as a whole. You have to line everything up perfectly to even have a shot at the playoffs, let alone winning a Super Bowl.
Correct.
So it's just a matter of getting as many cracks at it as you can, And I think the Patriots have so far this offseason have kind of they've put themselves in a position where they're not winning anything this year, anything of, consequence, but they're putting themselves in a position where next year they're just going to have less responsibility of filling holes on the roster than they do this year. It's taken a step forward. That's all that anybody's asking for this year. You watched a 4-13 team last year. They could win 7 games and people are going to be partying in the streets, or they should be, because that team stunk.
Correct. Yep. And what's crazy about it is that they were, as bad as that team was, and it was really bad, if they had a middle of the road, a top, the 20th ranked offense in the NFL, they're winning, 8 games. So and maybe even more, right? And so that's the stuff where it's like, yeah, you have to have something there offensively, and you had nothing, right? And so
if you make one change, if Bailey Zappi starts the whole season, they probably win 6 or 7 games.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's the talent gap was not that big. And I'm not, I've never been a huge fan of Mac Jones. But I think that's on the record. Pat knows. That's not an indictment on his talent. His brain, I don't know where it was this season, but thank God he got out of the situation he was in, because he was doing mental gymnastics out there when he's doing calculus when it should have been algebra kind of situation.
It made no sense. It made absolutely no sense. And he just because that was supposed to be his selling point too. And so maybe they ruined him. Maybe it was the fact he had 3 different offensive coordinators. Maybe I have no idea. Right. We can pontificate upon what we think the problem was, but the fact of the matter is that Mac Jones was the problem. Right. And whether the Patriots broke him or whether it was all him is irrelevant at this point. And we'll find out, I think, right? Because he goes to Jacksonville, he's going to back up Trevor Lawrence. And who knows? Maybe he'll get another shot somewhere else. Maybe he won't.
There's no doubt in my mind. He'll get an opportunity at some point, whether it's to compete for a job or to actually win it. Matt Flynn was given an opportunity to compete for one. He didn't win out. He lost out. But everybody ends up with an opportunity to get a job again. I think he'll be given that chance, and we'll see, like you said. But the situation as a whole, like I was saying earlier, to be successful, it could also go the opposite way, where the perfect recipe of disaster came together last year for them.
Correct. Well, and that's really the big thing, right? Is that everything just went south on them, unfortunately. And so that's really the question, right? Is what's going to happen? And Dad says an interesting thing, which is Trevor Lawrence's job's on the line right now, which, I mean, it's tough to argue with that. I don't know how you're obviously going to do the 5th-year option for Trevor Lawrence, I would imagine.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm not paying him. I'm not giving him a contract extension. I haven't seen anything from Trevor Lawrence. If I'm a Jaguars fan or running the Jaguars, I'm looking at it saying, do I believe in Trevor Lawrence? He's got a ton of talent, but do I actually believe in him?
Right.
I don't know the answer to that question. Now, supposedly they're in on Brandon Aiyuk. They're trying to make a trade for him. We'll see if that actually materializes. But you wonder if Trevor Lawrence ends up getting cut, could Mac Jones, sign a super small, not getting cut, but not getting re-signed or getting traded next year or whatever the case may be. So those are interesting things, to kind of consider as we move forward. And it's just, it is interesting. So we'll see. Again, whether it's the Patriots' fault, whether it's Mac Jones' fault, it doesn't matter. Didn't work with Mac Jones. They cut bait. They moved on. they got significantly less than the Commanders got today for Drake May. God, I hope not. For Sam Howell, they trade Howell a 4th and a 6th and get back a 3rd and the 5th. That's pretty solid, right? I thought it was pretty solid. They got a 78, I think, pick 78 back. So,
and that's a quarterback, like I said, if you throw him on the Patriots, they're a much better team. Like he's a fully capable, a guy who's, I think he's one of the top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. Yeah. It's just what team is he on, and is the guy in front of him better than him or not? It's, that's sports. Like Drew Lock went through the same thing last year with Seattle. He was probably better than some starters out in the league, but he was stuck behind somebody who was better than him. So
yeah.
And with Lawrence, like, he's just in a weird spot, I think, which makes people kind of overreact a little bit, where there were the superstar quarterbacks who get extended immediately, like Mahomes and Allen and Burrow, whatever. Then there are the guys who end up getting cut or traded, like Mac Jones or Fields is going to be, and Zach Wilson will be. He's in the middle ground, like him and Tua, where it's, do we want to extend him? Not really, but he's better than any of the other options we have right now. So we'll pick up the 5th year and just kind of hope he takes a step forward. Right. And it's a waiting game at that point, which I think is miserable for these NFL teams. You have to wait to see whether or not your quarterback's the guy, unlike, let's say the Chargers, who at least they know they have the quarterback. They just got to figure everything else out around him.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're totally right. I mean, that's the worst place to be, is not understanding and not knowing what it is that you have. Because if you cut that guy, then you end up losing out on him.
Right. And
he ends up being great somewhere else. And if you hold on to him too long and you extend him, Giants, then you end up looking like a moron. And so that's one of those things where it's like, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? And so you really kind of have to make a decision about where you want to go. And so the Patriots are not in that position. And so it looks like they're going to start over. I think it makes a lot of sense to take Drake May at 3. I think you could talk me into Marvin Harrison at 3. You could talk me into trading down to 6, or that wouldn't be 8 anymore, but 6 or 11 or 12, and go from there. I don't know what's going to happen. If I were Minnesota, all I know is if I were Minnesota, I'd be moving heaven and earth to get up to the top 3. Or maybe they like J.J. McCarthy and they want to take J.J. McCarthy at 11 and they think he'll drop to 11. There's certainly a possibility that will happen. And so they like McCarthy at 11, they take him there. So, but I don't know, man. It's a lot of question marks, and I'm interested to see what the Patriots do. There hasn't been as much intrigue around the draft in a long time. And maybe there has been, but at least for Patriots fans, there hasn't.
Not around here.
Because we're never drafting up this high, right? And the last time we did was 2001 when they drafted Richard Seymour, and everyone was pissed they didn't draft David Terrell. And that one worked out pretty well for the Patriots. So, it's one of those situations where, we look at it and say, okay, yeah, because they drafted him there, and then in 94 they drafted Willie at number 4, and then 93 they drafted Bledsoe at number 1. So I don't remember
Mayo.
anything else. Yeah, Mayo. So they had 7, and they moved back from 7 3 spots to take Mayo at 10. So that counts. Yep. So, but other than that, they're very.
You would know this. I was a wee lad. How did they have number 7? Who did they trade for number 7?
They had number 7. That's one of the greatest trades in NFL history. In 2007, the Patriots moved back, traded their number one pick, which was 29 overall, to San Francisco for San Fran's number 1 pick in 2008 and their 4th round pick in 2007. The 4th round pick they traded to Oakland for this guy named Randy Moss.
Right. Okay.
The Niners drafted Joe Staley, as Matt Menino pointed out, in the chat here. And then the Patriots were docked a 1st round pick in 2008, but they were docked their own 1st round pick in 2008, which was 31, and they ended up with number 7 overall. So they got a 1st round pick taken away and drafted number 7, which is hysterical, which is why when they took the one away for Deflategate, they said whatever the earliest 1st round pick is, so the NFL didn't look stupid like they did in 2008. So, but that was it ended up being a great trade. They moved back from 7 to 10 and picked up an extra 3rd rounder and drafted Mayo at 10, and then drafted Michigan legend Sean Crable in the 3rd round, who was terrible.
Never forget. Number 2 and then number 98 in the NFL. He was 100.
Yep. Yep. So, but yeah. So anyway, so that's what happened here. As far as like, drafting recently, at least this high,
Right.
but never had the Patriots really been in the market for a quarterback since '93 with Bledsoe at number 1. And at number 1, there was discussion between Maye and Bledsoe, but it was pretty
knew.
obvious that you were taking Bledsoe, I think, number 1. Now you don't know, right? If they had the number 1 pick, you'd be taking Caleb, but now you're at 3, and we look at it and say, Drake Maye, Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye. Jayden Daniels scares the hell out of me. I know that,
because we haven't talked about the quarterbacks yet. And
so I'm curious about your thoughts, because I know you're a tape eater, like a lot of the guys on Twitter are. And, I wouldn't say a lot of the guys, but like Taylor and Evan, and, you watch a lot of film. And so I'm curious about your opinion on these guys. Somebody said to me that, I read somewhere on Twitter that he attempted like 7 passes all of last year between like 10 and 19 yards in the middle of the field. Like he just doesn't throw in the middle of the field.
And that's the offense he was in.
And it's the offense that he's in. And so you can't necessarily blame him for that. But that's the offense here. Like if he can't do that, we don't know if he can do that or not. If he can't do that, we're screwed, And so that's what worries me. I also worry that he's a little bit older. He didn't really pop until this year. He played okay. We played pretty well last year, but he didn't really pop until this year when he was a lot older than everyone else, or at least a year older than everyone else.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that he's skinny and he runs like a friggin' maniac. And so like those things all worry me. He is.
Yeah. So I'm not going to pretend like I know what I'm talking about. I just enjoy it, and that's why I do it. But what I see Caleb Williams is out of my mind completely. He's going to be gone, 9 seconds after they're eligible to put the pick in. So between Maye and Daniels, I think Jayden Daniels is far and away the more talented player. I think Drake Maye probably fits what the Patriots are looking for and what they're looking for in this new offense specifically. Like a guy who's going to work the middle of the field, who doesn't need to run around, like throw the ball a million times a game. Did something happen? Is that face?
Yep.
Whatever.
Yep. Matt broke some Jay Glazer news. Keenan Allen traded to the Chicago Bears.
Well, there's Caleb Williams' new weapon. They got it right there.
I'm curious about who, man. Allegedly, they're trading a 4th round pick for Keenan Allen. How are the Patriots not in on that? I mean, maybe they're looking at it saying Keenan Allen's old, and so they don't need him, I guess.
I think trading a 4th round pick for Keenan Allen is kind of insane, if we're being honest.
You think
for the amount of money that he's being paid?
Yeah, I guess.
You're going to eat up half the cap room left. I think dead cap for them is $19 million. So whatever team, unless they're retaining salary, whatever team that acquires him owes him $20 million.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
No, that's fair. That's definitely fair. Last year of his deal, his cap hit is $34 million.
Yeah. That's a lot of money. And I assume they're going to retain some of it, but
you would think, but still, and
Chicago has money. I think Chicago
dead cap's 11
for Chicago. But
yeah, I agree. Well, especially if you're drafting the guy number 1, you're drafting the guy number 1.
They just lost a receiver. Darnell Mooney signed elsewhere.
They drafted that, right? They lost Mooney. You have DJ Moore already,
right? And
now you don't have to worry about drafting someone, although they don't have a pick at the top of the 2nd round anymore, right? Because they traded it for Montez Sweat, right?
Yeah, right. But the thing is with them is they have a security blanket for Caleb now.
And they also don't they have the 2nd round, or they have next year's 2nd round pick, don't they? Yeah. Okay, from Carolina. So you're right. And that's the type of thing is that you're bringing your rookie quarterback in and you're surrounding him with guys.
But where the Patriots are at right now, allocating half of your remaining salary cap to one old receiver, even though if it's 1 year, I know people have mentioned that, it doesn't make any sense. Right. I would much rather, if I'm building a team, give me a legitimate offensive lineman, like a real left tackle, over a receiver. Because Kendrick Bourne can be that guy. He's not going to be the same exact player as Keenan Allen, but, he can fit that role just fine. You got to build stuff around it, but I digress. Back to
Jayden Daniels. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Daniels is a much more talented player, but like I said, Maye kind of fits what they're looking for more. Taylor's kind of done a lot of breakdowns of Alex Van Pelt's offense, and I keep plugging him for some reason. But shout out Taylor
because he's great.
Yeah,
and
he is.
He's a former Pat's pulpit guy,
The
and he's a CLNS guy. So I mean, come on.
I'm a company man. What can I say? I know what I'm doing. But he's done a lot of breakdowns of Alex Van Pelt's offense, and when I watch that, it's much closer to what UNC ran than LSU, because LSU is similar to where it's that like spread, run and shoot, crazy dynamic, or not dynamic at all, like crazy simple. They just have dynamic players, so they make them run simple routes, and you throw the ball to him and let him make a play. So I think he needs some time. And I know people think like Jayden Daniels and Jacoby Brissett play the same style. I don't think Jacoby Brissett plays the same style as either one of these guys, because he's got cement shoes, and
Yeah, he does.
Jayden Daniels, we all know, can run. Drake May's a damn good athlete, like a real good athlete. Just because he's white doesn't mean he's not a good athlete, and he's a much better athlete than Jacoby Brissett. So I think the point that people have made there, and it's one that I've made, Brissett is a pocket passer, and I would say Jayden Daniels is a pocket passer who's able to run the ball. I think Drake Maye is like roll him out, get him out of the pocket, let him create a little bit, maybe a bit better at keeping his eyes down the field. So I think that fits Alex Van Pelt more than if Daniels, let's say Bill Belichick's still here and they're keeping on to the same offense they've run in recent seasons, Daniels would have fit that more. And at the end of the day, like I said earlier, if I had to put money on it, I think Washington wants Jayden Daniels like bad. I think they like that pick, that card is written out, and they're ready to turn it in.
Yeah. I just I don't know. Look, I think it makes a lot of sense. I like Drake Maye. I have guys that I know and trust that have been pounding the table for Drake Maye for a year and a half. And so okay. Like I believe it. I believe you. I will see what happens. And I'm concerned with Jayden Daniels, and so I'm totally fine with Washington taking him. Totally fine. I think you're right. He's super talented and he can run. And so we'll see. But again, whatever quarterback you have needs some weapons. I know KB's a good player. I like KB a lot. I like Pop Douglas a lot. They're limited guys. You brought Jalen Reagor back. Probably Jalen Reagor, I assume, is just here to be a kick return guy, I would think.
Yeah.
Seems like the new rules is going to put an emphasis on kick return this year. So you're going to want to return kicks. You're not going to want, as a kickoff team, you're not going to want to allow a touchback, right? You're going to kick the ball short of the end zone, because if you kick the ball in the end zone, it's a big penalty for you. And so you're going to kick it short. And so we'll come from there. Now, Old Man Mob asked about Mike Williams, who also got cut, which is interesting. And so we'll kind of see. I'm curious about your thoughts on that. But let's hold that thought. We're a little bit overdue on a break. So let's take a break. And then we'll come back. We'll talk about Mike Williams. And then I also want to see kind of what you think about the future, where the Patriots are heading here, what they should do the rest of the way. Maybe we'll do a little Brandon Aiyuk discussion. Maybe we'll talk about,
That's the answer to the question. So that's perfect.
Well, you're not supposed to give it away before we talk about it. So, all right, let's get into a break before Keegan gives any of the rest of the show away. Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. Now, PrizePicks even offers injury insurance so your entries stay in play, even if one of your players gets injured. For basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player projection won't count against you, and the rest of your entry stays live. Now, this week for me, I have Steph Curry for more than 29 points and Nikola Jokic for more than 10 rebounds, and then Caitlin Clark for more than 30 points and LeBron James for more than 7 assists. So download the app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right. So let's talk about Mike Williams for just a second. Mike Williams torn ACL last year, gets cut by LA. I don't know what he's going to want to do. You would think he's going to want to play in an offense that's going to showcase his abilities. Is the Patriots offense going to showcase his abilities, number one? And number two, would you take a flyer on a guy that's probably going to sign a 1-year deal? I mean, he might sign more than that, but probably going to want to sign a 1-year deal because he's going to bet on himself unless someone's willing to throw money at him this year. Would you go after Mike Williams?
It's all about what the money ends up being. I actually wrote this morning prior to him actually being released. Like, everybody knew what was going to go on with the 4 big cap hit guys. They were going to have to do something with each of them.
Right.
And I wrote, I would steer clear of any of the Chargers wide receivers. And we just talked about Keenan Allen. But after you cut Mike Williams, like, you don't have to worry about the money factor anymore. It's just what you're willing to pay him on the open market. And I don't know a lot of teams that would be willing to pay him. So I think it's going to be pretty slow. If you can get him for under $10 million, it's a gamble. It's still a risk. Like I said, everybody sees $100 million. You're not going to just cut a big chunk of what's left for one guy. But if you're willing to do it and you trust the medicals, I know he's coming off a torn ACL, but you've got another guy coming off a torn ACL.
Correct.
For me, it would have to be real cheap and a short-term deal that you could get out of. Or maybe a 2-year deal with all the money front-loaded.
Correct, yeah.
For, you're taking that risk, and at least it gives you a little bit more reward down the line if it ends up working out. If they can get it for less than like $8 million this year that they're paying right now, I would do it. Anything more, absolutely not. I'm out.
Yeah. I think that makes a ton of sense. I like the thought process of that quite a bit. I don't love Mike Williams. I never loved Mike Williams.
That's the thing.
Fantasy guys were always like, "Oh, Mike Williams is gonna be." I'm like, he's not. He's just not. I don't see it. And so maybe he will, but I don't know.
Mike Williams is Devontae Parker, but he can actually get separation. And
right.
Patriots fans will hear the Devontae Parker and be like, "Nope, I'm out." But Devontae Parker had a role in the offense.
Right.
Big body, possession receiver. The fact that he caught like 30 balls a year with getting 0 separation shows how, talented he actually is.
Right.
Mike Williams can do that, but he can also, get open, which is
correct.
kind of the thing that the Patriots haven't been able to do in like 5 years. They haven't had receivers who can get open unless they're teamed open.
That's a great point. It's not just Malcolm Mitchell.
There's talent there. It's just whether or not he's going to be on the field.
Right. Right. Oh, what an idea. Look at this idea. Christian Ortiz. That's the comment of the night so far. Trade down with the Chargers if they want Marvin Harrison Jr. from Arizona. He moved back to 5.
Yeah.
Right?
Still going to get a quarterback.
You pick up what? A second, maybe their second round pick this year, or their second round pick, even their second round pick next year and their 4th this year or something like that. I don't even know how much it would be.
I think you could probably get there. I don't know if San Diego would be willing to give away a 1st. But with the way like a top 3 pick is going,
right?
If you move down 1 spot, you should be able to get a future 1st. So it's whether or not San Diego or LA is willing to part with one. But I kind of
if you can get a 1st round pick, that's highway robbery,
right? But the Chargers aren't taking a quarterback. And I would be very, very, very surprised if the Cardinals took a quarterback.
Yeah.
So if you can move back 2 spots, still get your quarterback, and then recoup more value, you know me. I love value. Like, give me as many throws at the dartboard as possible.
Right.
That was a great idea. Who came up with that?
Who was it? Let's give him another shout out. Christian Ortiz over here.
Shout out, Christian.
on the YouTube.
It's a quick 2-second thought, but that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, Matt says that we appreciate that we're still calling them San Diego. I will call them San Diego forever.
I can't.
Forever. They're not LA. Screw them.
I think of the Chargers, I think Antonio Gates, and that's San Diego. So
100%. Nope. San Diego Chargers is the way it goes. So according to the Rich Hill draft chart, it says that they're only about 50 points away.
Okay.
Right? 50 points away is nothing. That just so people understand, that's like a mid-third round pick. But you're going to have to pay to do it. So even if you give up a second next year and a fifth this year, right? Patriots pick up extra draft capital this year and extra draft capital next year, move back 2 spots. They get the guy. And really the question there is, do you believe that Marvin Harrison Jr. is that much better than Malik Neighbors, who is the second guy, right? He's the guy you're going to get.
Right.
And so if you believe that, he's worth a second next year and a fifth this year. He's worth it, right? Because you believe he's that much better. If you don't believe he's that much better, well, then it doesn't matter. You don't need to go up and get him. You just take Malik Neighbors at 5 and then you're fine, you know? And so that's and Nightmare says he's light years better. I agree, but not everyone sees it that way. And so that's the question you have to answer, right? So
different kind of player too. So how does he fit into the offense? Who do you have on the roster already? Correct.
And that's the interesting thing. And I think too, like, they screwed up so bad last year taking Quentin Johnston. I don't know what.
Never saw it.
That made absolutely no sense. I never, ever, ever never made sense to me. Yeah. So Josh says if Bears keep Fields is gone. Fields is being traded. I'm surprised Fields hasn't been traded already. I assume it's just simply because they haven't gotten the offer they want, I would think. But I don't know. I mean, they were talking about getting a first-round pick for him, which is complete insanity. No one's doing that. But anyways, so I think that's
one thing to think of too. My buddy Ryan just kind of put that on my radar. Arizona could just trade out then too and let somebody jump the Patriots for a quarterback. So you're playing a dangerous game there.
100%. Totally true. That's 100% true. And if you're the Patriots, you have to live with that, right? You have to live with, we might lose out on Drake Maye. And so ultimately what happens is you don't make the move if you feel like Drake Maye is the guy 100%. Right? Then you take him. But if you're unsure even a little bit, yeah, move out to 5. Why not? And then if someone wants to move up to 4 and steal Drake Maye from you, then, move back to 11 and take, Joe Alt, or take Joe Alt at 5 if you want, right? And now you get your left tackle and you have Brissett and you take Michael Penix in the second round or something like that, So, but I think it's an interesting way to look at it. So we'll see. Or shoot, you trade. Well, see, the problem is if you trade with the Giants are going to take your quarterback, so you can't do that.
Right.
At 6. So anyways, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
My brain's in a pretzel now. They really just threw this all in a tip.
That one threw me off. I like that trade quite a bit, and so that one threw me off. But let's talk about another trade. And we kind of previewed it before. You gave away your feelings on it. I mean, it should be everyone's feelings on it, if we're being honest here. Okay. What's the largest price tag you would give up to get Brandon Aiyuk and the Patriots?
34. And a later round pick, maybe a 4th or a 5th.
Okay.
And then, but you have to pay him.
Then you got to pay him. But that's okay. You've got the money for that.
A boatload of money, and you've got the money, but you're taking. And I've made this point in about 5,000 articles in the past 2 weeks. Like, don't spend more capital than you need to. If you can get a receiver for just paying for him, even if it's an upgrade, you shouldn't go trade and then also pay for somebody. So that's why I was always in on just pay Calvin Ridley instead of trading for T. Higgins and Brandon Aiyuk. Calvin Ridley's off the board.
Correct.
This is now your only option. So, and if I had to pick one, I would pick Aiyuk. I think Aiyuk is like a superstar. Just waiting to happen. I think he's better than Debo. I think if they were to trade anybody, they should trade Debo. But if they're willing to trade Brandon Aiyuk, like, move heaven and earth to go get that guy because he is fantastic. Also, and we'll talk about this maybe in a little while. I get fixated on these guys during the draft, and then I just can't quit them. Like, I can't quit Justin Fields. I'd take him tomorrow, but I cannot quit Brandon Aiyuk. And it was a slow start, but he's been like he's gotten better and better and better. And I don't see that stopping anytime soon.
No,
he's the best player on the field in the NFC Championship game.
And it really wasn't that close, to be honest with you. So
on a field full of superstar, all pro Bowlers, he was the best guy on the field.
Yeah. And I agree with you. Like, So I saw someone tweet, and I have no idea who it was, but I saw someone tweet like, why would the Niners trade their best wide receiver if they could trade Debo instead? Like, and it's like, it's
Debo's already been paid.
Well, and that's the thing.
And at this point, he's paid more than he's probably worth.
Correct.
So
yep.
What's San Francisco going to get for him?
And so that's really the issue, right? Aiyuk is a stud. I love Aiyuk. Now, Nightmare says he'd rather have T. Higgins. I know people love T. Higgins. I like T. Higgins too. I like him. I don't like him as much as Aiyuk. I don't feel like he is as fast as Aiyuk. I don't feel like he's as shifty as Aiyuk. He's a very, very, very good jump ball guy. He's a really good 50-50 guy. And he's more than that. I don't want to say he's just that. He's more than that. But Aiyuk, I think, is a supremely talented wide receiver.
And with the way I look at wideouts, I will take the smaller guy who has a more diverse route tree every single time.
Right.
Because the Patriots have had 3 different systems. They're going to have their 4th system in 4 years. T. Higgins isn't going to fit all 4 of those systems. Brandon Aiyuk's going to fit all 4 of them.
Right.
So you need a guy who's going to be able to stick with whatever changes happen, whatever quarterback moves, whatever offensive coordinators. Aiyuk's going to be able to fit with all that. And Higgins is a great player. I think he's awesome. And he's like 24 still. I think he's younger than I am.
He just turned 25. I looked it up because I was curious.
How?
What's his
I don't
name?
know how that works.
Aiyuk turns 26 on Sunday.
Yeah.
This Sunday. And then Higgins turned 25 in January.
Right. And also another move just broke. I don't know if you saw it, but Hollywood Brown to the Chiefs. So that's another quality wide receiver off the board to a team that's already better than you.
And so the problem with that is that it really, I don't know what he signed for. I'm curious about. Oh, Rossini says up to, here you go. 1 year, $1 million, 1 year up to $11 million. Now, that could be $5 million with, bonuses up to $11 million. But if you're him and you have the opportunity to, he's going to get paid. He signed a 1 year deal to try to get absolutely paid.
Right.
Are you going to sign with the Patriots or are you going to sign with the Chiefs?
Right.
And so I don't know. Now, maybe if you offered him a 5-year, $100 million contract, he would have probably taken that. But are you paying Hollywood Brown that much money? You shouldn't. Just because he's the best wide receiver left on the market doesn't mean you should go out there and pay him like that, like a wide receiver one. And so the Chiefs are taking a small money deal with him and saying, you know what? Here we are. Figure it out. You know what I mean? And listen.
Give him an opportunity.
Nakoti Barrows says trade for Justin Jefferson. Look, if it were that easy, I'd do it.
Yeah.
But come on, it's like, they should never trade. And maybe Minnesota won't make a deal with him. I don't know. But if you're Minnesota, you just cannot let Justin Jefferson leave basically no matter what. I know they made it work with Stephon Diggs when they traded him. Justin Jefferson's the best wide receiver in the league, and it's not particularly close.
Right.
And so, you have to re-sign that guy. You're not going to be able to restock. You're not going to strike gold twice. You can't. And so, it's crazy. And Nightmare says that Jefferson would take number 3, and you're not 100% wrong there.
Yeah, I think if that, and it's not even a possibility, I don't think, but you would probably move back. Where are the Vikings? 11, 9?
Vikings are 11. Yep.
11. So you would move from 3 to 11, and you'd get Jefferson. That's probably what it would be. Plus maybe some extra later draft capital.
Yeah.
Are you willing to move back 8 spots? Whatever it is. I don't know how to do math. You're the math guy. But yeah, you move back 8 spots.
Yep.
Nailed it. For a superstar, and then you don't have a quarterback. So,
But I would 1,000. If you're telling me I had to trade 3, I traded 3 to Minnesota to move back to 11 and get Justin Jefferson back, I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I'd do it in a heartbeat.
I guess McCarthy would be the pick there, right?
Theoretically.
He's still available.
Right.
Or it ends up being Fashanu and Alt, and then you go get a second-round guy. So I guess, but they're not going to let go of him. So it's,
it doesn't matter at that point. You know what I mean? It's so, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. There's so many different things that you look at. Again, the concern, and this was the thought process all along, the concern is who's going to want to sign with you?
Right.
Who's going to want to come here and play for unnamed QB number 1? I mean, Jacoby Brissett, love the guy, great guy in the locker room, but like, I mean, is he recruiting anyone to come play for him? No.
Right.
So that's the thing, is that you look at it and do that. And so I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not sure, but yes, they need to find some way to rebuild their offense. You want to do it with young guys. Right. And so whether that's you trade for a guy like Aiyuk or even T. Higgins, and I know T. Higgins on a franchise tag, but they can obviously trade him for less if they want. Whether you trade
still
for
hasn't
Aiyuk,
signed it, so when you do trade for him, you're gonna just redo his deal.
correct? Yeah. 100%.
It's not gonna end up being 20 whatever million that it is. Right.
No, and absolutely. But I'm just saying, in the fact that the Patriots wouldn't just offer him a contract and have to give up 2 first-round picks for him. So,
right.
To me, you want to trade for or sign the youngest guy you can. 30-year-old Calvin Ridley doesn't move the needle for me. Just doesn't. 39-year-old, well, he's not 30 yet. 39-year-old Keenan Allen doesn't move the needle for me. He doesn't.
34, I believe. Yeah.
No, I know. I was just being a jerk.
Giving you the number. No, I agree with you.
And that's the issue that I have, is that get younger. We need to get younger and then try to build through those young guys. You want to build around pieces. That's what you want to do. And so, and listen, there's past history evaluating drafting receivers. Gary's 100% about that. I don't blame him for feeling that way, because a lot of the scouting staff is the same. But they're using a new system of evaluating guys. It's worked pretty well in Green Bay. Right? So, you wonder, does that system work better? Now, maybe it doesn't matter, but maybe it will. And that's the thing.
And my big thing is always, when we're looking at the rebuild as a whole, if you get the quarterback, you're going to have a lot more opportunities to go get the receivers in later years. This isn't a one-year thing. I've said it a million times. So if you get the quarterback now and you allow him to develop with whoever you have on the roster at this point, next year there are going to be 1 million receivers that are awesome. The year after, there are going to be 1,000,002 receivers that are awesome. Mm-hmm. And it's going to keep going. We've seen for the past 5 or 6 years, save for, I believe it was 2021 or 2022, it was a down year for wide receivers just as a total.
Yeah.
Every year there's more and more. It's a bigger class. They're more talented. They're better. That's just the way that the league is going. That's the way football is going as a whole. You're going to have so many more opportunities to get really good wideouts than you are at quarterbacks come along you have an opportunity to get a quarterback once in a lifetime. So
correct.
Wanting to go get wide receivers now and then figuring out quarterbacks later just isn't the way it goes. And they had an opportunity, but that opportunity is passed. You have to move forward and focus on get the quarterback, build the offensive line, keep him healthy, and then you fill in the gaps from there.
Yeah, I agree. And in my opinion, taking Marvin Harrison Jr. when you don't have taking Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 3 when you don't already have a stud quarterback is a mistake.
You're setting him up for failure.
100%.
Your team, here, Jacoby Brissett's throwing you the ball now. His quarterback last year, he had a shitty quarterback, and we saw, as talented as he was, the numbers dip a little. He went from C.J. Stroud to
Kyle McCord.
Yes, Kyle McCord. I'm. The name is out of my brain. It was so bad. I flushed Kyle McCord out of my brain. But that, it has an effect on the receivers, no matter how good they are.
Yeah.
You can throw it up to them, but you got to get it to them. It's just how it goes.
Right. And that's really the issue, right? Is that I look at it and just think how do you set these guys up for success? How do you set the offense up for success? Now, listen, if you're one of the reasons why it makes sense for the Chargers to move from 5 to 3 is because you have the quarterback, right? You think Justin Herbert is the guy. And if that's the case, go get the best wide receiver. Go get a generational talent at wide receiver because you already have a legitimately very good quarterback, right? And so that's the first part of it, right? You have the guy already. You can't take that guy without having the guy at quarterback. That's the issue that the Patriots are running into right now is that I don't want Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3 if we don't have the quarterback. I love Marvin Harrison Jr. But unless you're telling me we love Bo Nix and we think Bo Nix can be the guy and we're going to take 34 and package it with our second next year and move up to 27 and take Bo Nix at 27. Okay. Like, I don't see it, but if that's how they feel, and they feel like Bo Nix is the guy, and they feel like they'll have a guy, well, then fine. I'm okay with taking Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3 if that's the way you feel.
Yeah.
But, like, you can't not have a plan at quarterback and take a wide receiver, no matter how good he is, at number 3 overall.
And if you, like, the successful team, I was looking up real quick. I just was thinking, like, what are the best receiving cores in the NFL? How are they built? They're all, for the most part, either you acquired somebody through trade, free agency, whatever. You hit big on somebody in the second, third, fourth round, and then the last piece was a first-round pick to round it all out.
Yep.
It's just kind of how they're built. I mean, like, Cincinnati did it that way. T. Higgins was a second-round pick. Tyler Boyd had been there forever and had always been solid. Then they added Jamar Chase, took him to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Philly, they traded for A.J. Brown, drafted Devontae Smith in the first round. Miami, traded for Tyreek Hill, drafted Jalen Waddle in the first round. San Francisco, Aiyuk was a second-round pick. Deebo Samuel was a first-round pick. Seattle, this is the last one. I'm not going to keep going.
Other way around.
Metcalf, was it the other way around?
Yeah, Deebo was second. Aiyuk was first.
Okay. So Metcalf, second-round pick. Tyler Lockett's been there forever. Jackson Smith and Jigba, first-round pick this year. So you round it out. That it's like the last piece of the puzzle. You can build a good wide receiver group without taking a first-round pick. And to take it to the next level, like I've said a million times, you get that guy in the first round. That's kind of the finishing touches. Like, we're ready to go this year. This is what the offense is. And they're just not going to be ready this year. The fact of the matter, do what you can, take one step forward, and then next year, that's where you kind of try to round things out, in my opinion.
Right. And I agree with you on that 100%. And I think that's what it comes down to, right? Again, it's the draft. It's all crapshoot. I know people don't like that, but, it's all a crapshoot. It doesn't matter where you draft the guy. You have to draft the right guy. You just got to draft the right guy, right? The Bears had a shot at number 3. They traded up to number 2 to get the guy they wanted at number 2. The guy they wanted was the wrong guy.
Right.
Number 10 was Patrick Mahomes. He was there. He was in the draft. The guy was in the draft. They knew they needed a quarterback. They targeted a quarterback. They traded up to get the quarterback. They drafted the wrong guy. And they look stupid for doing it. Right?
And look where they're at, and then look where the team with the guys at.
And that's what it comes down to.
32nd pick.
Yep. That's what it comes down to. So at the end of the day, you absolutely have to draft the right guy. And if Drake Maye ends up sucking like the last 2 UNC quarterbacks did, well, then they're in trouble. Right? You drafted Drake Maye at 3, and you're drafted number 1 in 4 years. Right. And if Drake Maye hits, and he's incredible, and he's a great player, and then you hit on a wide receiver at 34, or even a tackle at 34, right? And so that's the thing. Like, you also have to hit on other guys, right? You can't just hit on one guy. You got to hit on multiple guys.
Right.
And so that's the position that we're in. And the reason we're in that position is because we haven't drafted well. There was that 4 or 5 year stretch where they drafted horribly, and that's why we're in that position we're in.
They went 1 for 5. In the past 6 drafts, they've gone 1 for 6. 2020 was a solid year. They got a few really good starters. From there, it's been nothing.
Right.
And I've seen people. You're going to kill the quarterback with this wide receiver room. The quarterback can't be successful with a bad team. The defense is ready made.
Yep.
I did a mock draft about a week ago. Didn't take a single defensive player. They don't need them. They're all set. Yep. Take 3 wide receivers, 2 tackles, a tight end, a running back, maybe another wide receiver. Who cares? Right. And then take your quarterback. And they're rookies. They're gonna fail. They're gonna have failures. There are gonna be bad weeks. There are gonna be weeks where they might lose you a game. But they're doing it together, and you're growing. Mm-hmm. And if you hit on 2 of them, if you take 10 players and you hit on 2, that's a win.
Right.
It's the way the NFL works. Every year, if you look at any team's draft listing for the past 5 years, they got 1, 2, maybe 3 players that are still in the league. Maybe 4 or 5 if they really did a great job, and the rest of them are out of the league. It's the NFL.
Right. It's true. It's true. TJ, it's interesting that you make the point that the league is changing. Superstar wide receivers are like Charizards now. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. I'll throw him up on there. I'm reading the whole damn thing. And the elite teams all have one. I agree with you. And I would love to agree even more strongly with you, except for the fact that there's a guy that plays in Miami who before the last few weeks of the year should have been in the MVP conversation, named Tyreek Hill. The team that he played for, right? I don't know if you know this or not. The team he played for traded him, got a pick back for him, and then won the Super Bowl without him. So
2 years in a row.
Oh, not just once? Oh, twice?
No, yeah, twice.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay,
first
all
time
right.
anybody's done it in 20 years.
You know what's interesting is that the first year they replaced him with Juju Smith-Schuster, who we all think is terrible. And the second year they replaced him with a rookie wide receiver who was awful for the majority of the year. And then really came around at the end of the year. I shouldn't say awful. That was a shot at Rashid Rice. I apologize, Rashid Rice. He was fine. And then he turned out being good. 4th round pick, and he ended up being really good by the end of the year.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he was the savior. He actively lost them 2 games. The Super Bowl champions lost 2 games because of their number 1 wide receiver.
Right, which is insane. Yes, and Rice was a second rounder. Thank you, Matt, for checking that.
I didn't pay attention last.
SMU. And so that's the best tight end in history. What difference does that make? I'm sorry. We're talking about wide receivers here. Yes, the tight end was there. That's true. They didn't win the Super Bowl with the tight end and the wide receiver. They traded the wide receiver. They won 2 straight Super Bowls. They had Kelsey on the team the year before and didn't win the Super Bowl. So I'm just saying we're just talking here. But if we're talking about wide receivers, the most important position on the field, and then we're going to say that tight end was still there, the wide receiver was there, you traded the wide receiver and kept the tight end, and then won back-to-back Super Bowls after not winning the Super Bowl with those 2 guys. Well, I'm sorry. By the way, that was 2 straight years they lost. Yes, because they had won in They won in 19.
Yep.
And then didn't win again until 22. They lost. Yeah. So then
they lost in 20 and they didn't make it in 21.
Yeah, right. So, and again, clearly having Travis Kelce is really helpful, obviously, right?
If we're going to start comparing rosters up and down, we'll be here all night.
It's just stupid, right? And that's the thing is that, we can't get into that. But the point is that, yes, you need a number 1 wide receiver. You know what really helps you win a Super Bowl? If your team's really good at every position. That helps. You have to be good at every position. That's true. But having the number 1 quarterback is more important than having the number 1 wide receiver. It just is. It's a fact.
And I don't know if I have to say it a million times. They are not going to build a contending team in one offseason.
Right.
They're not. No one's ever done it in the history of football. Have gone from 4-13 to winning a Super. It ain't happening. So get it out of your mind that they're gonna just the roster's fixed. It's not gonna happen. It's probably not gonna happen in 2 years. It's probably not gonna happen in 3 years.
Right.
If everything goes to plan, in 3 years they'll be contending.
Correct.
So just stop worrying about they need to do this, and this offseason. They need to do one of those things. And then next year they'll do the next. And then the year after that they'll do the next.
Right.
It's just how football.
And the biggest, and again, all I keep coming back to is you have to trust your evaluation. Right? Darren says he's not blown away by any of the quarterbacks.
No.
Watch Drake Maye's tape. Watch his tape, bro. Okay? But look.
You cannot be blown away by any of them.
And that's totally fine, right?
You can go draft a wide receiver who's good. Jacoby Brissett's going to be throwing him the ball. What's the difference?
Right. Correct. Again, if you're not blown away by that guy, you're trading number 3. Period. That's the move. If you're not blown away by the quarterbacks, if you don't like Drake Maye, if you don't like Jaden Daniels, you're moving back from 3. That's what you're doing. Right? And then you're drafting, JJ McCarthy at 11 or 12. Or maybe you're not drafting JJ McCarthy. Maybe you're drafting, Olu Fashanu or Joe Alt or the kid from Oregon State. And you're drafting your left tackle of the future, and you've picked up 2 future first-round picks, and you can just throw darts at the dartboard and just see what happens. And again, I have no problem with that. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. I got no issue with that. But again, I look at, and Alvin Mack points out that Houston did do it. That is true. They also had Nico Collins, who we didn't realize was going to be a number 1 wide receiver, but turned into a top 15 wide receiver this year. The Patriots don't have a guy on the roster that's going to turn into a top 15 wide receiver on the roster. They just don't. They just don't have that
premium pick on him 2 years ago.
Right. And so that's the thing, right? And they hit it. Now maybe Tyquan Thornton's getting buff. He's getting swole. And he'll be, more reliable next year.
He needed more weight. That's what he needed to run better routes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. Look, and that's the problem, is that there is no right answer.
No.
There is no right answer right now. But again, in my opinion, taking the number 3 overall pick and using it on a wide receiver, especially when you don't have a quarterback, doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Because either you're taking a quarterback there, or you're moving back and picking up an insane amount of assets so somebody else can move up and take a quarterback in that spot.
Right.
That's the issue that I have. Right. And that's the problem, and look, that man ain't buff. He isn't. Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if you've seen the pictures. He looks pretty jacked, dude. He's getting up there.
I would say cut more than buff.
Yeah. I guess
not a lot of meat. It's chiseled.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's fair. So, we'll see. And look, Houston did do it. There is a possibility. But again, I just look at it and think, like, they hit on Tank Dell, and Nico Collins turned into a stud, and C.J. Stroud was incredible. Right? And then, of course, their defense played well, too. It could happen. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. It's possible.
Also, I don't know if you guys remember, they had 2 top 3 picks last year.
That's also a good point.
They didn't just draft the quarterback. They kind of drafted like a really good edge defender who immediately popped.
And did he win Defensive Rookie of the Year?
He did. They won. They had the offensive and defensive Rookie of the Year.
So 2 years in a row, because the Jets did it last year. So that's interesting. So I don't think Old Man Mob has an interesting question. Would you trade next year's 1st and 34 to the Cardinals for 4th overall? I don't think that's possible.
No.
I don't think you could do it. I think you'd have to trade 2 years of first-round picks. And even still, I don't think that'd be enough.
Why would they? They would move back from 4 to 34 in that situation for 1 first-round pick. No.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. By the way, someone thinks we were hyping up Tyquan. I don't understand. Maybe he just misheard.
No, we were making respectfully. Yeah.
Respectfully, we were making fun of him.
He seems like a nice guy.
Yep. Working hard. He's out there. He's out there working hard. He's out there working hard.
Good for him, man.
Yep.
Working harder than I am. So
that's all he can do. So, it's not going to make him good, but I mean, maybe it will. You never know. So, all right. Anyway, so that's 1 weekend of free agency. Patriots fans are spiraling. We're not used to. I know. Wow, it's 1 week.
It's 4 days, but
let's be honest, right? Let's be honest. Free agency really started like when the combine started. So, this stuff's been going. It's just a coincidence that Monday at noon, all the contracts were ready to go. But nevertheless, Patriots fans are spiraling. I get it. I understand. We're not used to this. It's weird, right? I listened to Part of My Take, and Hank on Part of My Take was like, I didn't know how the draft works. Like, I just I don't know. We have number 3. Like, what? Like, I don't know. Like, what do you? Okay. Like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? So that's the hard thing, is that we haven't. We're draft nuts, but some people aren't, and some people don't love this stuff. And it's like, we should just be good every year, and unfortunately, we're not. I wish we were good every year, but that's the way it is. So, but look, it's a process. I'm not gonna say trust the process, because screw Philly, but it's okay. They're not going to be great this year. So, all right, good question. Here's a good question from Old Man Mob. I like it. What's the best offseason move so far, in your opinion?
Onwenu. It's got to be Onwenu. I mean, like, you had no tackles. You had to do something to at least pretend like you were trying to fix that. And they got a really good right tackle, guy with positional versatility, and they did it for cheap. So,
yeah, I like it. I like that. I like that choice, but I'm not going with that choice.
I know where you're going.
Oh, you know where I'm going.
I know where you're going.
Anthony Jennings. Got it. You had to bring him back, man. The guy was the glue of the defense, was an absolute monster against the run. And if they didn't bring back Penny Jennings, I was going to be so mad. I was going to be so furious if they didn't bring back Penny Jennings. Clearly on one, it was the better player, but I love Anthony Jennings so much, and I was so happy that he was on the team and finally broke out. And, to have lost him after that would have been so sad. And so I'm so
I was
happy.
going to steal your thunder, and I was like, that is one of my favorites. And I do think getting Uche for the money that they got him for, that's a guy who, when he's opposite Matt Judon, has proven to be like a double-digit sack guy. It's just whether or not Judon stays healthy.
Right.
And kind of the positions that they put him in to be successful. I don't think he's winning every pass rush, like every snap, but
no.
He's a productive player, and they got him for pennies on the dollar. So
right, and look, your offensive line next year, you got Barmore, who I'm hoping that they would lock up. Hopefully, you have Keon White, you have Anthony Jennings, you have Josh Uche, and you have Matthew Judon, who they still have to redo his deal, by the way. But those 5 guys as your rotational guys, and then you have Uquale. And Sam Roberts, I believe, is still around. So, you have some development.
Devon Godshaw, too, has been, a great
Devon Godshaw. Yep. So I think that's – I like where they're going defensively. And like you said, they don't need defensive pieces. They need offensive pieces. No. Go rebuild the offense this year and then go from there. So we'll see. But that Matthew Judon's one that's flying under the radar. He's staying. He talks about the Patriots are his team.
Yeah.
He's talking about the Patriots. But that's one thing that they have to figure out because they have to re-sign him to a better deal than he's getting right now.
But you just have to kind of figure out where the value is. And a guy who's about to be 30 coming off an injury. Is there value in locking him up? There probably is if it's for cheap. If he wants money, then you're probably better off waiting.
Yeah. The biggest the thing is the issue is that they pulled the Stephon Gilmore stuff with him where they gave him money from this year last year.
Right.
And so now this year's contract is nothing. Well, not nothing, but this year's contract is significantly lower because you took money away from it to give him last year, right? So now you're asking him to play on a smaller price tag. Maybe he'll do that. I don't know, right? And prove himself this year or whatever the case may be. But to me, that's a guy that stayed around the team, was on the sideline for a ton of games, even though he wasn't playing. He's a guy that is a glue in that locker room that I want to keep around.
I think too. If anybody's going to be a captain next year, give it to him.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be him, right? Jesus.
Give it to him. Captain, it's it's fake. Hunter Henry was a captain last year. What is Hunter Henry doing? Really?
Right.
Give Matt Judon, put the C's on their chest for all I care. Throw him a bone.
Yeah. I do think it's funny when what did Colorado have, L, C, and D or something like that?
For L's and D's, leaders and dogs.
Leaders and dogs. But it's still got to be weird throwing an L on your chest, though.
Not great.
I was like,
quarterback has an
L on his chest.
Fat L on his chest. Not great.
So, but what are you gonna do? Anyways, all right. This has been a great conversation, Keegan. I almost called you Stegan. I miss talking to you, man. I miss having you on the show. I'm happy you were back. And so we'll have to do it again. Hopefully you can stop by on the live draft stream on draft night.
I will be in Foxborough. So
you're gonna be in Foxborough for that. Okay.
Yep. I'll be shaking hands, kissing babies.
No, I love it. I love it.
Fortunately, I won't be able to be there, but I will be reacting to the draft, and
I'm very excited.
So
yeah, I'm very excited. It's one of my favorite days of the entire year.
It's my favorite night of the year. Love it.
Yeah, it's so great.
Can't get enough.
So we'll see. There's a lot of moves to make. And so we're gonna see where they go from here. But I do think that they're doing it the right way right now. People aren't happy about it. I get it, but we're going in that situation. So Thank you, TJ, for stopping by. I appreciate it. So we'll see. But Keegan, before I let you go, and before we get out of here, plug yourself. Let people know where they can read you and see you and hear you and watch you and everything else.
You were nice enough to put the Twitter right down there, so I appreciate that. At Keagan Stiefel. It's hard to spell, so screenshot it if you care that much. You can read all my
Which you
stuff at
should.
NESN.com. I've had a little side project going. I brought it back for the first time in a couple of years. If you're interested in the draft, I watch and semi-profile. I think I have 60 players so far, maybe 65. So hoping to get it to 100 before the draft. It's tough because it's like a free time activity for me. But if you're interested in the draft, go look for it. Twitter, I'm pretty active. I like getting in on the conversation. So if you have anything to toss at me, I love responding. NESN, of course, and I'm just kind of around. I'm here. I'm there.
He's just generally around.
I'll be at a Bruins game at some point. I'll be at a game.
I love it. Nightmare, thank you for stopping by as well. Look, here's what I'm gonna say about and you're too humble about this. People do not understand. Keegan is doing a Google sheet, right, of prospects and writing scouting reports, and then just giving it away for free. He's not even asking you to subscribe. Nothing. He's asking for nothing in return. Not one damn thing. So if you don't follow Keegan on Twitter already, go out there, follow him at Keagan Stiefel on Twitter. Yeah. Go check out the Google sheet and take a look at his breakdowns. And maybe you'll look at it and say, his breakdowns suck and I don't agree with any of them. Fine. But it's free. It's better than freaking going out and paying for the athletics one or paying for another one. For God's sakes, he's giving it to you for free and asking for nothing in return. Just throw him a follow on Twitter for Christ's sake. All right?
It's worth your time to just like have ammunition to throw barbs at me. Like I'm going to be wrong about some of these guys. So you can be like, you're a friggin' idiot. You thought Xavier Legette was good. You know, he's going to be good, but
he is going to be good. Have you heard it? Have you heard his interviews? Oh my God, his voice is so
incredible. I tweeted
incredible.
That today. I was like, I would take him third overall.
Yes.
That was so I went to high school in Texas. That was like, you don't even find that deep Southern accent in Texas. That is a South Carolina boy if I have ever seen one.
I love it. I love it so much.
Love
That's
it.
so good. Great. It's so good. So, and he's a stud on the field. On the field. So, they need guys like that. There's a million guys like that out there. You're right. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they get one of them at 34 or even 68. You never know. So, but all right, gentlemen. Well, Keegan, thank you so much. Everyone in the chat, we appreciate it. We appreciate you coming through. Great show as always. Thank you for interacting and throwing up a ton of comments. We appreciate it. And we're going to be back Monday night. Matt will be back on the show Monday night. We'll do another mock draft madness on Monday night. And then we'll get into that last two episodes, I should say, of the Dynasty dropped tonight and tomorrow as well. And so maybe you'll enjoy them, maybe you won't, but there's some really juicy information in the last few episodes. So go watch it if you haven't seen it. So anyways, thanks guys. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming through, and we'll talk to you on Monday night.